Gather round, and I shall tell ye a tale. It was the best of times, it was the tackiest of times. It was the year 2013. TLC, or The Learning Channel, which of course is so funny because you don't learn a darn thing.
She peed on my leg one time.
Was known for some of the most controversial and exploitative shows in the reality TV genre. We're talking Toddlers and Tiaras.
I was feel stupid today.
19 Kids and Counting.
A side hug would be when two people wrap their arms around each other and give each other a hug from the side.
90 Day Fiancé.
You're lazy, so you always get the fast food for lunch. No wonder you're piggy.
And their newest show was Best Funeral Ever.
We do not have generic funerals.
And it was a disco dancing machine. And it knew how to do the Watusi.
The concept of Best Funeral Ever is that it would follow the workers at Golden Gate Funeral Home in Dallas, Texas, led by their boss, John Beckwith Jr.
My name is John Beckwith Jr. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Golden Gate Funeral Home.
Beckwith was just the character reality TV was looking for. A journalist from the Dallas Observer described Beckwith as wearing a suit custom tailored to accommodate the .45 caliber Glock pistol he keeps in his trousers pocket. With Best Funeral Ever, not only would the viewer be getting big characters, they would be getting big funerals. Golden Gate Funeral Home described their services as over the top, their version of a traditional African-American homegoing celebration.
If they want to dunk a basketball, Golden Gate Funeral Home can make that happen for them. If they want to jump out of airplanes, Golden Gate Funeral Home can make that happen for them.
Best Funeral Ever only lasted for one season, for reasons we'll discuss. But Golden Gate is a real funeral home. There are 3 locations, 2 in Texas, 1 in Louisiana. They serve about 2,000 to 3,000 families a year. And in recent years, they've had more than their fair share of scandals and complaints and downright horrors.
Golden Gate has had more than 20 complaints.
Golden Gate Funeral Home in Dallas tried to cover up their mother's cremation.
Another client alleges she showed up for her mother's viewing to find her partially decomposed.
In the first part of this video, I'll revisit Best Funeral Ever and talk about what I believe worked, what didn't work, and what the show said about the development of funeral service in the early 2000s. Then in part 2, we'll track Golden Gate Funeral Homes since the show aired and discuss why it might not be a good idea for funeral homes to be on reality television. Spoiler, they are not the only ones with a scandal. They are not the only ones with a scandal. Here's what you need to understand about the early 2010s. Reality show producers wanted to make a show about a funeral home, and they would stop at nothing to make it happen. I was 2 years into making Ask a Mortician on this channel, and our inbox was flooded with reality show pitches. I have never been so wanted. The angle for the vast majority of these pitches was hot girls doing death things. Embalming and dating, cremating and ghost hunting, Real Housewives of the morgue. I'm not here to make friends because all my friends are dead. It got so bad that I made a parody video of one particularly bad casting notice.
TLC is looking for fun, fabulous females in funeral service with big, bold, entertaining personalities to be on a new reality show.
Alas, TLC never made Spicy Ladies of Death, but they did make Best Funeral Ever. Let's watch it. Episode 1. Best Funeral Ever opens with absolutely zero context as to who these people are or what this funeral home does. There is a blue casket, which we're told contains the body of a woman named Judy Sunday. The casket is sitting on the ground in the middle of a bowling lane. There's a preacher doing a full sermon over a rack of bowling balls. Then the family pushes the casket, which, surprise, is on wheels, down the lane for one final bowl. Judy's corpse flies down and bowls her last strike. Because this is reality TV, I immediately do not believe that there is a dead body in that casket. I believe this is an empty casket, and if I'm wrong, whatever. Nothing happens to me if I'm wrong. Sue me for slander, TLC. I'm looking for something to do.
I would laugh so hard I peed on her.
Since TLC refuses to give us context, I'm going to fill in some blanks. Golden Gate was founded by John E. Beckwith Sr. in the 1980s. The elder Beckwith grew up poor in a rural part of Louisiana during the Civil Rights Movement. The origin story is that when his mother died, he received poor treatment at a funeral home, which inspired him to start learning the business at local funeral homes at a young age. Beckwith Jr., our main character, took over the family business after his father had a stroke. He works there now with his own son, B3. For the purposes of this show, B3 is the simple sidekick trope character. The viewer is not given a chance to see if B3 is a competent or good funeral director because he's always off having some goofy side quest that his father resoundingly disapproves of.
You'll never be worth anything, B3.
Next, we meet the Perkins family, who have lost their mother and father very close together. And in an arrangement conference, the suggestion is made that they have a wedding funeral for their parents.
The idea of having two deceased remarry is so unique because it's a wedding and it's a funeral.
So we watch the Golden Gate funeral planners, one of whom is Trenard, who has incredible Pete Wentz hair, come up with what a wedding funeral will be. And what is powerful about this is not only does it get weirder and weirder, but the funeral planners are given free rein to create a brand new death ritual from scratch. It's rare that someone does something that has really never been done before, and I believe this specific funeral ritual we are about to see has never been done before in this way.
We're gonna have those urns all dressed up for the wedding. Behind the urns, we're gonna have silhouettes of living bodies to represent them.
Worry not, we still get lots of classic reality show moments. Like the lady at the wedding venue thinks she's planning a wedding for a living couple.
Can you just speak plain to me? I'm a Texas girl and I need it laid out real simple.
They're dead.
Okay.
Zoinks, did nobody tell her? The lady at the bridal shop thinks it's a living couple.
The couple is deceased and they have been cremated.
We don't do that here.
Zoinks! Did nobody tell her? Miscommunication. These moments to me come off as very low-hanging fruit. You're creating an entire funeral ritual from scratch. I'd rather hear from like an anthropologist than a befuddled wedding planner. Also, the hallmark of being a funeral professional is clear communication and solid logistics. I don't believe these two funeral arrangers are showing up somewhere shy and awkward and like refusing to explain what they're doing there. That evasive routine has to be done for the cameras. But in good news, on this outing, the funeral planners find baptismal outfits for infants that are the correct size for the urns to wear when they get married, so. As they are preparing for the wedding funeral, there is some low-stakes drama between the two funeral planners. Every episode, there will be some low-stakes drama either between the two funeral planners or between Beckwith the son and Beckwith the father. As wedding funeral begins, they bring in the urns, one in a tiny tuxedo, one in a tiny veil, down the aisle. They end by mixing the couple's cremated remains into one urn. At the funeral reception, the chocolate urn cake toppers are really the stars of the show. That's an incredible touch. You get a sense already from this episode that we're not gonna get anything about how a funeral home runs. There is no dying. There are no bodies, no embalming, no body prep, no cremation. It's going to be 100% a show about what theme we can give a funeral. And this was very relevant in 2013. The years from 2000 to 2015 truly were the era where the next innovation in death was supposed to be personalization. You could have a golf ball shaped urn because dad loved golf. Shoot your ashes into space because dad loved space. Play Ozzy Osbourne at the memorial because you're unique. Which, this message never really resonated with me because it seemed more like the question was, what can a funeral home sell you?
Revenue enhancement.
Now that the cremation rate is rising rapidly and there is less money in selling embalming and caskets.
Revenue enhancement.
So Best Funeral Ever is not outside of its time. It's just a very exaggerated, drastic version of what's happening everywhere in the American funeral industry during this period. Episode 2. We open here with Quentin's funeral, and Quentin's defining feature, I guess, was that he loved breakfast. So they've covered his casket in fruit, like a casket flower spray, but it's cantaloupes. That is the exact same casket as the bowling funeral. I think the producers bought one powder blue casket with scalloped swing bar handles that they are going to put through hell to create a season of reality television. If we see this casket again, I'm on to you, the Learning Channel. For this funeral, we have milk pulpit, we have men dressed as bacon, and we have live pancake making. Those pancakes, to be honest, look very good. We have a breakfast choir. And the family does seem to love it, and the family getting what they want, that is the most important thing. Already a pattern is emerging, which is the dead person, the actual dead body, has to do either A, the thing the person loved to do while alive, or B, the thing the person never got to do while alive. And through this series, we're going to see bodies in caskets do these two categories of activities, even though we never see any of the actual dead people. If you were an alien, and you didn't know what a funeral was, you would think the people were gathering to do ritual worship of empty caskets. Our next decedent is U.S. athlete Ronnie Ray Smith, winner of the gold medal in the 4x100 meter relay at the 1968 Summer Olympics. Guess what they're gonna do?
We should have him run around the track one more time, send the casket around the track.
Okay, now Golden Gate employees are using, you guessed it, the powder blue casket to test sprints around the track. This plan escalates very quickly from the son, B3, dragging the casket on a rope behind a bicycle, to sliding it on oil across garbage bags, to building a frame around a go-kart.
We built this frame, the casket goes on top of the frame, made sure everything is stabilized. Here we go.
My personal belief is that this was their last filming day with the blue casket, and the producers were like, okay boys, f*** her up. Trenard, the funeral planner, is painted gold and dressed as Mercury for the service, which I think is just something Trenard wanted to do. Ronnie Ray Smith gets a track and field / Olympic themed funeral that took place on a track. They lit the Olympic torch, his casket ran a final race, and he was lifted onto the podium and given a medal. There is very little reason, once again, for me to believe that Ronnie Ray Smith is in that casket. If he is, Best Funeral Ever is 100% burying the lead on what is fascinating about this funeral. How did they strap him inside that casket? How did they secure him? Did the family sign a legal waiver? What if the go-kart crashed into some high school soccer players and burst into flames? They just have a hot, dead body in a casket out in the sun all day for filming? I don't think these are my niche funeral director questions. I think these are everyone's questions. Episode 3. Next episode, this guy liked candy. Candy funeral, chocolate casket, gingerbread man preacher. Jesus! Jesus! If you're wondering by this point, were these really the kind of funerals that Golden Gate was doing around this period? I think the answer is no. Beckwith Jr. admitted to the Dallas Morning News that they were a little upset at the initial reaction to the TV show because, quote, we thought people knew us. More than 98% of our services are traditional. So most of their funerals were large traditional homegoings. And even the way the show is produced, it seems obvious that these are not their normal funerals. These funerals are just how some producer decided they would make a TLC reality show out of this. To make it work in the TLC format, they couldn't follow real people doing real work. They had to focus on the funerals and making them increasingly bizarre. At one point during the candy-themed funeral, it's revealed that the casket, presumably containing a corpse, has been fully coated in chocolate.
Y'all come on over. We're gonna get some chocolate off the casket. Y'all come on over.
And the mourners start peeling off chunks of chocolate that has been painted on the casket and eating it. Just chunks of chocolate. Someone painted on a receptacle containing a dead man, once again sitting out in the hot sun. If you followed me for a while, you know that I love a funerary ritual related to consumption. There are rituals from all around the world that aren't necessarily cannibalism, but might be related to ingesting fluid from the body or ashes from the body.
There is a tribe in the Amazon called the Yanomamo. They put their ashes into a broth and share it with each other.
But this particular one is new. Again, a new thing. My guess here is that most of this was developed by the show's producers, and because they knew nothing about funerals, their new, fresh, raw little brains were like, well, what's a funeral ritual? I don't know. And from the mouth of babes came the most wondrous, weirdest stuff. But how does the show want us to believe that Golden Gate comes up with these new funeral rituals? We're taken into their staff meeting / brainstorming session for what they are calling
Hollywood funeral.
These staff meetings remind me so much of one of the funniest things I have ever seen, which is the Key and Peele sketch about the writer's room of Gremlins 2. The conceit is that Jordan Peele, no matter how silly a design concept for a gremlin, he yes-ands the person suggesting the new gremlin and goes, it's in the movie.
What if there was like a brainy gremlin?
You talking about a gremlin with glasses who could talk and sing New York, New York? That's brilliant. It's in the movie, done.
That is basically this meeting.
I think we should bring the loved one to the movie theater one last time.
A deceased person in a movie theater.
Yes, sir.
I like that. What do y'all think, staff?
A deceased person in a movie theater?
You a crazy person, and your idea's in the movie. Done. Next.
One thing that is never discussed on camera is money. We see arrangement conferences, which for the purposes of this show start with the premise that every family is going to want the entire staff of Golden Gate and their thousands of dollars in salaries to sit around brainstorming how they could construct like a giant foam core Ronald Reagan head because the dead person loved presidents.
It can be in the movie, and it is in the movie. Done. Next.
Given that finances are most people's first concern with funerals, this is what I would like to see. I know it's not an educational show, but think of like Selling Sunset or any real estate show. People like to know how much custom expensive things cost.
Oh, I see why this house is worth 21 million.
And this is another missed opportunity. At the end of the movie theater funeral, they take the casket, again, allegedly with a body in it, to a real theater. Because this is a reality show, they are trying to make us think they didn't rent out this theater, and there are just families with little children who are trying to see a movie on a Saturday afternoon, and they're gonna roll a corpse in. Don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining, TLC. Episode 4. This is the most boring episode of the season, in my opinion. We're not really getting to know any of the characters on the show. Things I want to see. Trenard at home. Trenard in the embalming room. Trenard fighting with the guy at the death registrar's office. If we aren't getting to see any real behind the scenes at a funeral home, and we're not getting a sense of the characters' personalities or relationships, you begin to wonder what the show is really about. This episode, by the way, is zombie funeral and game show funeral. They spin the casket on a wheel, and the deceased wins salvation. Speaking of, the best part of the show so far is probably the preachers.
I pity the fool that won't turn around and give himself to Jesus. And then thank the Lord for giving us a good meal.
It's insight into a culture of actual black homegoings, and not the ones where the preachers have to wear gingerbread costumes. Jesus! And you can see that they are talented, they hold a room, they take emotions up and down again. They are ritual specialists, and it's impressive to watch. Sort of upsetting, because you can tell there is a version of this show where you see the actual behind the scenes of a funeral home and see real problems and see real funerals, and it's very interesting. Notably, in 2013, the same year that Best Funeral Ever came out, the Discovery Channel released the show Funeral Boss.
Funeral Boss, series premiere Thursday, March 14th at 10 on Discovery Fit and Health.
I told you, everyone wanted a funeral reality show in the early 2010s. Funeral Boss profiled the family-run funeral home William C. Harris in St. Louis, Missouri.
What people fail to realize is this is a business. The Harris way is the best way.
I have not watched the show, but from some YouTube clips, it seems like this show was more realistic. They even acknowledge, if you can believe it, that funeral homes involve bodies.
I take a lot of pride in restoring the lifelike appearance of someone.
Bodies, corpses, the dead.
I have a very serious job to do because every person that enters these doors is precious cargo.
Episode 5. We open with football funeral.
Incorporating his ashes to the football was great.
This ritual is similar to something we did at my funeral home, which is supporting the family to make an urn transfer of ashes into a new vessel. Moving the ashes is, I think, a collaborative physical ritual. And here they are putting ashes into a football that they then kick through the goalpost. We never did the football part. I don't want to sound like a hater. I love a fabulous weird death idea.
Biscuitman.
Next, we're in an arrangement conference for a Western-themed funeral.
Maybe we could do a Western movie.
I like that because that's what he likes.
He liked things like that. We're going to do a Western movie theme for the pastor.
That funeral arranger is wearing a completely different outfit in each take.
A casket in a shootout.
Yeah. Casket in a shootout? Say it with me. It's in the movie.
I love it!
I will point out here, and this was something that a black critic wrote about the show in the Washington Post. Golden Gate is a black funeral home. In almost every episode, they go out into the community to a wedding venue, to a movie theater, an old Western town, and Golden Gate's funeral arrangers meet with a white person whose job it is, obviously coached by the producers of the show, to be like, it is so gross and crazy what you're doing. I don't know that I want to be involved. The only crazy thing to me is how you're supposedly throwing a corpse around in that old-timey tapered coffin and not sharing with the class how the dead woman is secured in there. Or is she in there at all? Episode 6. This episode opens with a boxer's funeral that felt the most real to me. It was shot in a much more realistic verite style. The family seemed real, the memorial t-shirt seemed real. It made sense to have him in the boxing ring. By contrast, there is a Hawaiian-themed funeral where they breathe fire and wear a bunch of plastic leis and then send the dead person floating out on an outrigger. Well, if it isn't the powder blue casket with the scalloped bars back again. I think why the show begins to drag at this point is that we don't actually get to know the dead people at all, just this one arbitrary characteristic of them. There was a lot more to Mary, the dead woman, in her long life than wanted to go to Hawaii but never got around to it. That's not her entire story. You begin to see here why Best Funeral Ever only lasted one season. It's a reality show about party planning that has absolutely nothing to do with death or what goes on at a funeral. We don't get to see the reality and darkness of real funeral home work, nor do we get to see the reality of the real grief of the families. We never even get to see anyone have to make a hard decision. Episode 7. We've made it to the final episode of the season, and what we're looking at is Country Music Funeral.
I would think it would be fun if the family had a little bull riding contest.
You, sir, are a raging psychopath.
It's in the movie.
It sounds like a liability issue.
Now you're worried about a liability issue? Not when the dead bodies in your care were strapped on the top of a racing go-kart or floating out on a lake? The theme of this episode is that no one at Golden Gate knows anything about country music, but they know what the family will like, and that's putting their uncle's casket on a mechanical bull. And as a release of our collective id, here in the season finale, we finally get to watch them entirely destroy a casket.
Good.
Hooray, I guess. I was surprised that this was the last episode of the season because I had, the whole time, been waiting for the funeral of Willie McCoy, singer of the inescapable Chili's Baby Back Ribs jingle of the 90s.
I want my baby back ribs.
Chili's
baby back ribs. Barbecue sauce.
I had seen clips of his barbecue-themed funeral with out-of-control pigs running around, his casket that looks like a griller smoker, and a barbecue sauce fountain that was part of a rib dipping ritual. According to the Lost Media subreddit, this episode is now a mostly missing pilot episode that aired on TLC 1 year before the actual show. The episode also featured the following: Christmas funeral, riding rides with an urn at an amusement park, and Beckwith Jr. auditioning and hiring professional mourners for Golden Gate.
You there. That's it.
Here is my overall review of Best Funeral Ever. It's a time capsule of 2013, both the state of reality television and the funeral industry's attempt to get us to focus on personalization and the individual, since we were no longer paying as much for embalming, caskets, and traditional services. But it was interesting that the messenger here was a Southern Black funeral home. Given that the actual corpse, the presentation of the dead body itself, is crucial to Black mourning. In Carla Holloway's book, Passed On, she discusses how in the African American community, the question, who's got the body, still holds significance. It was traditional in African American communities to leave the casket open for viewing. A laying on of hands, touching, kissing, and expressing one's grief by viewing the remains have traditionally mattered deeply. Holloway finds the reason for the importance of the body in West African funeral traditions, in showing evidence of racialized violence, and more prosaically, a way for funeral homes to make more money. Yet, Best Funeral Ever entirely ignores the dead body. If you believe what you see on the show, Golden Gate was not actually caring for the dead body. There's no body in those caskets, and if there is, we never see them. Best Funeral Ever wants the excitement and taboo of proximity to death without having any actual dead people to contend with. And that ultimately, like the powder blue casket, makes the show feel hollow. Golden Gate is a real funeral home that exists in the real world, with a real duty, financially and ethically, to care for the dead people in their care. In the past several years, the gingerbread outfits and wacky themes of a reality show have turned to the more difficult reality of complaints and lawsuits. It is May of 2025. The police in Shreveport, Louisiana, receive a call about a dead body. The call comes from an employee at Alsco Uniforms, a uniform rental and laundry service that caters to businesses like restaurants and hotels. Alsco employees were going through a shipment of soiled laundry when they found something strange. It seemed like it was a doll wrapped in dirty linens, but the doll was the body of an embalmed, stillborn infant. The body was in bad shape with significant discoloration. A Shreveport PD officer said it was a very strange scene, something that we don't come across very often. Law enforcement would track the baby to Golden Gate Funeral Home, across state lines in Texas. The baby's funeral had been held earlier that month. The child was supposed to be cremated, but was somehow mistakenly transported out of Golden Gate with the dirty laundry, for reasons we still don't understand. I've said this before, but I want to be clear. I would never take a funeral home or a funeral home owner to task for a mistake, even a mistake as truly horrifying as this one. Mistakes happen no matter how good a funeral home worker you are. For me to say something, it has to be a pattern of behavior, and a pattern it does appear to be. A pattern that started way back with John Beckwith Sr., the funeral home's founder, in the 1980s. Dallas in the late 80s and early 90s was experiencing murder rates that were at an all-time high. Beckwith Sr. was accused of soliciting bodies, that is, showing up outside the homes of recent murder victims and saying, "Here's the paperwork, I want you to sign the body over to me." Because violent crime was high during this period, Texas had a crime victim compensation fund, where the state would offer $3,000 for funeral expenses to victims. Beckwith Sr. was accused of offering kickbacks to the families, that is, a portion of the money if they agreed to do business with Golden Gate. Complaints about Golden Gate have come into the Texas Funeral Service Commission for the last 40 years, but in the last 5 years, the problems have ramped up in a disturbing way. In 2021, a whistleblower, a former employee of the funeral home named Isaiah Darris, filed a complaint against Golden Gate with the Funeral Service Commission. The complaint included a number of photographs which he said showed rotting bodies stacked outside the funeral home in an unrefrigerated U-Haul rental truck.
In the back of the morgue, there was bodies stacked up all over the place. There were bodies that were just sitting in the hallways.
Now, 2020 and 2021 were the height of the pandemic. Storage of bodies was a terrible problem, so there has to be some understanding. But the photographs also seem to show terrible conditions inside the funeral home. Another former employee, Chantel Major, claims she was fired in retaliation for speaking out about the same conditions. She said,
"Bodies everywhere, stored places they shouldn't. They will smell decomposing bodies, all type of human decomposition matter that no one, even us that work in the morgue, should be subject to."
In the same interview, Chantel Major was asked if inspectors came in, what would they see? And Major replied,
"A horror film."
Beckwith Jr. claims that the photos at Golden Gate aren't real, that bodies were never kept in unrefrigerated U-Hauls, and that everything was staged by former employees. If things are bad behind the curtain at Golden Gate, things are equally bad in front of the curtain. The Dallas Funeral Home has 1.9 stars on Yelp, which is hard to do even for a funeral home. Funeral homes, in my experience, have no problem going down to like 3.2 stars, but 1.9 is impressive. The main concerns brought up in the reviews seem to be a huge turnaround time for cremations, no communication about what's taking so long, general chaos, mistakes, lots of names misspelled on important documents. Fire everyone who works here. It's been over a month, and we do not have my grandmother's ashes. I would rather be cremated in a barbecue grill than to give this company my money. Even if I want a free funeral from Golden Gate, I would refuse. Never go here unless you want your relatives to rot in a freezer for at least a month. But as the complaints to the Texas Funeral Service Commission prove, the problems go beyond bad customer service. 2018, the funeral of Aldo Busby. Busby had had a rough life, and his daughter, Nakia Webster, chose Golden Gate for his funeral because she wanted to restore her father's dignity in death. That vision included a crowning ceremony where pallbearers would glide Aldo's casket down the aisle and crown him king. Webster told Texas Monthly that she called Golden Gate because they were so well known. Quote, "Just like when you're hungry, you think of McDonald's, even though that may not be the healthiest thing," which is an iconic thing to say about a funeral home. When Webster arrived for her father's viewing, she was led into a large room filled with completely different families also having viewings at the same time. The rooms were divided up for privacy only with thin partitions. Golden Gate employees were going around the room spraying Lysol to cover up a horrendous smell that Webster believes was the result of decomposition. Then her father's funeral itself was full of minor mishaps. Dirty tissues on the ground from a previous service, the music she asked to be played just wasn't, and at the end of the service, they gave her a copy of the memorial slideshow, but it was of the wrong dead person. A few months go by, and Webster begins to wonder why she never had been called to pick up her father's cremated remains. So she went over to Golden Gate in person. Of all the things that go wrong, Webster said, what could go more wrong than dead? After leaving her alone in an arrangement room for an hour, an employee came in and told her that she had waited too long to claim her father's cremated remains she had no idea were even ready for her to pick up. Because Golden Gate alleged that she had abandoned them, they had scattered the remains at a cemetery in Louisiana. "I have no ties to Tallulah, Louisiana," said Webster. "I have never even heard of Tallulah, Louisiana before this moment." 2020, the funeral of Virginia Rankin. There were problems from the beginning at Virginia's service. Incorrect information in her obituary, random photos of a Hispanic family in their slideshow, and Virginia's fingernails were painted blue, allegedly to hide the beginnings of decomposition. But the most important thing to the family was a witness cremation, something I recommend all the time, where the family can go in for a final goodbye before watching the body loaded into the cremation machine. The family kept trying to schedule the witness cremation with Golden Gate, but the funeral home put them off, saying their mother's body was safely under refrigeration, but no date could be set yet. When the family went in to pick up Virginia's death certificates, they once again asked when the cremation would be scheduled. They were given their mother's ashes from a cremation that had taken place 3 weeks prior. Worse, the personal identification number on the box of cremated remains did not match the identification number on Virginia's paperwork. The family desperately wanted to speak with Beckwith Jr., but were told that he had gone to attend the Super Bowl. Beckwith Jr. responded to this by saying,
"We're very good at what we do.
One of the reasons that we own our own crematory, so we never get that mixed up. Each person is identified by at least 2 people, the crematory operator, as well as a supervisor. So there's no way we would ever get anyone mixed up.
2022, the cremation of Cass Simmons, a stillborn baby. Cass's family did witness his cremation and claimed that the baby appeared to be severely decomposed, not preserved as the funeral home had claimed, and looked like a black trash bag. The family received an urn of cremated remains a week later, but there were 2 different bags of ashes inside, one small bag and one much larger bag. His grandmother said,
"Oh my God, that looks like kitty litter."
And the family was so worried that they sent the ashes to the Texas State Anthropology Center. The center confirmed that the bags were consistent with cremated remains, but the amount of remains returned were not at all consistent with that of a 3-pound baby. The larger bag was the amount of ashes you would expect with a 60-pound child, 43 times heavier than it should have been. As of now, the Texas Funeral Commission, which has its own problems, that's a story for another day, is investigating the complaints. Dozens of families have sued Golden Gate, and several have accepted out-of-court settlements. As for John Beckwith Jr., he hasn't exactly gone into hiding over these scandals. Golden Gate continues to post TikToks where Beckwith Jr. arrives at the funeral home in a Lamborghini. This seems to be a running theme on his account, showing off wealth by arriving at work dressed and accessorized to the nines in a variety of expensive cars. The Lambo, a Cybertruck. As we've discussed in previous videos, black undertakers displaying wealth in their community has long been a part of the funeral industry. Funeral directors in the late 19th and early 20th centuries were very often leaders in their community. They wore nice suits every day, they had beautiful carriages and then cars, and they kept elegant funeral homes. In the 1950s, Ebony magazine called undertakers the most influential men in society. Morticians had access to aspirational wealth denied to most members of their community. And in that way, Beckwith Jr. is part of a long tradition of black morticians. But in another way, maybe film less TikToks while there are so many lawsuits from traumatized families, John.
What did you do to my son before you cremated him?
We have no ashes. We have no gravesite. We have nothing.
Nobody should have to go through this.
So our final question, given what has happened to Golden Gate, was it a bad idea to have a reality show based on your funeral home? Reality shows are known for being exploitative and unethical. They can lead to dark-sided things.
She's tampering in dark-sided stuff!
And there have been a surprising number of funeral home reality shows. I have never watched any of them, except now, every friggin' second of Best Funeral Ever. In addition to Best Funeral Ever on TLC and Funeral Boss on Discovery, in 2014, Lifetime wanted to compete with the funeral reality show Saturation with their offering called Good Grief. This would also be about a funeral home in Texas, the Johnson Family Mortuary, and the husband and wife team that owned it. Except the show was pulled before it aired because the funeral home's landlord showed up to collect unpaid rent and found 8 abandoned bodies stored improperly in advanced stages of decomposition.
Bodies found left in the building showed signs of insect infestation. At least one corpse appeared mummified, and that's just some of the less disturbing accounts at that funeral home.
I can't even get into reality shows from other countries.
Fiona Bakulich is a known figure in the funeral industry, starring in the Casketeers TV show. But now the former Tipene Funerals undertaker is in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons: mishandling human remains and defrauding grieving families.
I'm not going to talk about that one, but it includes charging families for COVID vaccinations for corpses. That's vaccinations after the person was already dead. The inner workings and behind the scenes of funeral homes have long been hidden, creating fear around death. That's the thesis of my books and this channel, really, and it would follow that a show allowing the public to see behind the scenes, to see the reality of funeral work, would be a good thing. But we all know that reality shows are not reality. And I can't help but think that the type of funeral home owner who wants the drama and conflict and exposure that signing up for a reality TV show brings might be willing to overlook some other things in their business. the state of Texas, because everything's bigger there and because the funeral industry has been run by a somewhat toothless inspection and governing body, has had some of the weirdest mortuary scandals. And we've begun covering those on our Patreon, and your support there allows myself and my team to continue to make these videos. It is the only way that these are funded, and we appreciate your support.
I want more spicy gals, spicy gals, spicy gals, spicy gals, spicy gals, spicy gals. I want more spicy gals, spicy gals, spicy gals, spicy gals, spicy gals, spicy gals. I want more spicy gals, spicy gals, spicy gals, spicy gals. I want more spicy gals, spicy ladies of gals on GLC. I want more spicy gals, spicy ladies of gals. I want more spicy gals, spicy ladies of gals on GLC.
Spicy ladies of death out there, this song goes out to you. Keep on, keep strong, keep dating, keep cremating. But above all, keep on proving to your haters that the only thing hotter than your love is your oven. Hey, spicy ladies of death, you make me lose my breath. And that's alright by me, cause I'm here to spend all eternity together, you and me. Funeral parlor of love. Yeah, your spicy love is what I'm dying of. Your spicy love is what I'm dying of. Your spicy love is what I'm dying, what I'm dying, what I'm dying of. Spicy love is what I'm dying of. Your spicy love, your spicy, spicy love is what I'm dying of.
Barbecue sauce.